Hello everyone, welcome back to the Radian build. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the carbs off and then put the original way too big jets in it. First things first, I do need to drain the bowls, which are just these little screws here. I have a oil catch pan under it that I'm just using to catch the gas. It doesn't go absolutely everywhere on the floor. Yes, it is going all over the bottom of the bike, but it will be cleaned up eventually, so I'm not that worried about it. Same setup on this side, just the two little screws. And luckily all the bowls have fuel in them, so that means nothing's blocked off, which is not why it's not running correctly. While I'm letting this guy drain out, I will get the choke released. Sorry about that, just kicked the tank. And then I will finagle the throttle out, which I can't do on camera because I have to pull up. But you just kind of pop that little guy out right there. Same goes for this little guy. For the choke, it's just this right there, and that pops out so the choke is fully removed. Yep, got the throttle out. Not very hard to do, just cannot do it with one hand. So I had to take it off. So what we're gonna do next is just pop those little screws out so the carb comes out of the intake boots. Screw it there. Just until it feels good and isn't going to completely fall apart. And then there's one all the way back there. Not sure if I'm getting focus on it. All the way back there, and then two on the other side. Yep, and I'm going to pop these pod filters off. Same thing, but it's just a flathead. Now with the pod filters off, I can actually take the carbs off because I have a little bit more room. All I'm going to do is rack them up and down a few times to get them wiggled, and then pull straight back and make sure I do not hit any of the frame members so it doesn't damage any of the carbs. Carbs are out, a little bit of persuasion, but not a huge deal. I have them in there just so they will drain the excess gas so I don't get it absolutely everywhere when I take them apart. I am going to take these off because they are definitely a little bit cracked through and through. Now, I'm going to try to do it in the cheapest, most redneck way possible to see if it even works, because I do think they are bleeding a little bit, but all I gotta do, because those carb sinks are on, is pop all these lines off and then get that, looks like a 5mm hex screw out, and I'll have them all out. I just have to be very careful not to break any of the bolts or the boots. Handy dandy little 1/4 inch with a 5mm hex, got them right off, no real issues. And if you look, it's not that dirty in any of them. I'll have to clean up the mating surface and make sure nothing's like stuck or I can't see any damage inside if I can view in there. But not too bad. All right, carbs are all out and empty. I have these out. Gasket's a little messed up. I didn't even think about that, which as long as I don't destroy it, it should be all right. For now, nothing really looks damaged. There are a few cracks, as you can see, but I don't think that's leaking anything. It might be, it might not be, but we're still gonna see if we can jerry rig it. Before that though, we're gonna flip the carbs over and then pop out all the screws. As you can see, they are new screws because I have already been in the carbs and they sent me the wrong size jets, so it's just way too much fuel. Sorry for the noise, AC kicked on, I'm in the utility room. Got all the screws out, so we just pop these off. And make sure you check under them. Not too bad. I did not check that other one. Yeah, it's okay. Same with this. I have to make sure I clean that out a little bit extra. Yeah, this one's not too bad either. Now, these are aftermarket or rebuild gaskets, so they are a little flexy. They are fine, they don't leak, but just keep that in mind if you do get them or get a rebuild kit. Some of the gaskets are not the same as the original. The original ones had like full indentations just so everything lined up even better, but these are pretty good. It still has the original floats and it still has the original needle and the hole that the needle goes into, just because I do not have a tool at home to smack this out in lieu of breaking anything. Got the little gaskets off. I did put them under this box just so they stay flat. It's a box of my wife's books. So it's probably a 30-40 pound box, just to keep everything flat, and it will also dry out while it's sitting under there, just because gas is pretty quick to dry. Everything in the top end of the carb is actually pretty clean. I am going to be replacing these with the OEM 75.5, I guess, millimeter jets, because these are, I believe, 110s. It should say it on the side somewhere. While I was in here, I also did just run a piece of wire through these holes just to make sure nothing is clogged or anything. But everything does move freely, everything resets properly. So fuel is definitely getting up here, or rather down here, and nothing is in the way. I will obviously be wiping everything down, cleaning everything up, so it's not as dirty. Even though it all's pretty clean, everything can be a little bit cleaner, obviously. Yep, and I will just take a screwdriver and pop these loose. If the carb has not been taken apart, obviously you have to be much more careful with this, because this is brass and is very soft, and you could cause a ton of damage by hemming and hawing on it. But luckily I just had these out a few weeks ago, and they're brand new, so there's no real damage or problems with it. I am keeping the original pilot jets in there. They have been cleaned though, they've been fully cleaned out. Not sure if you can see that, sorry for the shaking. Kind of hard to focus in on it. The original ones, I have been saying it wrong this whole time, they are 97.5, sorry about that. But I still do think without an exhaust, doesn't want to focus. But I do think without an exhaust, these 110s and 115s are too big for the bike, or at least until I get a little more sorted out. They are fairly dirty on the outside, but they are completely clean, straight through, no blockages. I will be just really quickly with a soft Scotch-Brite pad and a brass bristled brush, just be cleaning them up so they look more presentable. But after the bike is running and these actually are getting fuel through them, they should clean up a little bit more just by the nature of the gas just eating through everything. Alright, got all these guys nice and clean. You can see there is a little bit of pocking, but they have bikes turning 40 next year. So they are at most 40 years old, but chances are they are new whenever the previous owner rebuilt these. But the bike was last registered in 96, so it would then just be 30 years old if these are not original, but I'm almost positive they are just because of the markings on them. Alright, just putting them back in is the same as taking them out, but this time, instead of being careful, you're putting too much weight to get them loose. You have to be careful of how much weight you put on them to tighten them. Whoops. Just a little bit to snug them up, just so they won't move. Finger tight first, just like that. They don't need very much. Now that they are all in, I am going to clean up this, I'm going to clean up this mating surface, just so there's no debris in the way of the gasket, so it doesn't leak fuel absolutely everywhere. Now I do have all the surfaces cleaned up, but before I do that, I am going to clean up all these bolts. They're not all bad, some of them are pretty clean. These are for the intake boots. Ooh, if it wants to focus. But then there are obviously some like this with a lot of corrosion built up on them. I just want to clean them up so I don't inadvertently cause a problem where next time I try to take them off, they end up snapping or they are seized in there. Now that I got those little guys cleaned up, I am going to do the same for the bowls. Even though they're not all that dirty, I have them off. I might as well just clean them really fast, make them nice and shiny. All I'm really using for cleaning is a brass brush, a Scotch pad, and a microfiber cloth. But if you don't have a microfiber cloth, something like a low lint cloth or even, I wouldn't do it, paper towels or shop towels would do it. You just have to be a little more wary with regular paper towels that they will start to flake and degrade as you're wiping, so you don't get matter and particles and debris in the carbs, because that will probably not affect it too bad with just a paper towel, but it could cause some running issues or some blockages. Yep, I got these guys all nice and clean now. Word of warning with any, if you're using like a Scotch-Brite pad, they do leave a lot of little particulates from the pad just kind of wearing down, so make sure you blow this out real nice, just so nothing is stuck in there, or else you might have a clog that would cause a few issues. Now, what I mainly focus on, this one's still a little bit dirty that I can't fully get out, was the mating surfaces, obviously, so it doesn't leak. If I had like really high grit sandpaper, I would have made them all nice and shiny, but I do not have that, and also that would take so much time to do right now. I do plan on in the future for like these small little parts and bolts and whatnot, I do plan on buying one of those ultrasonic cleaners just to see how well that would work. I'm not 100% sure. If someone has experience with using those for automotive or just cleaning metal parts in general like this, just let me know how you feel about them, if they work well or if they're kind of just a huge scam. Now that everything's cleaned up, we can add our gaskets back, and seeing that I put they're still a little bit wibbly wobbly, but they are way flatter than they were, just because, you know, cheaper material. But they do seal and they don't leak, so I can't really complain. But, you know, just put them back on, just like, let's see if I can do this with one hand, just like that, and it should be all good. Obviously, if you got the OEM, I believe these are Kuni carbs, the gasket, they are a little indented, so it's a little easier for everything to line up, but these work just fine. Now that we got them all in, you can see that some are a little flexed just because they've been on here and expanded and whatnot from getting a little warm. We're just going to throw the bowls back on, and they do have a proper way to go, which should be just like that. Now, before lining everything up or before tightening everything, make sure everything lines up and there are no gaps and the gasket's not pinched, or you will obviously have a gas leak until you take it back off and put it back on. All right, and now that we have all of them in place, what I like to do is just about till they just feel tight, and I do it for them in a star pattern, like if you were putting on tires. That's also how I put them in. Just when you put them in, don't fully tighten one down at a time, get them all in, and then tighten it like you would a car tire. Now that I have the bottoms back on, I will not be removing these because they've all been replaced, but this one, I had a replacement in it and it broke, so I had to put the original in. And as you can see, one of these gave me a mild issue coming out, so I had to cut through, and then it was a real trick to get it out. But it went through, but it did not damage any of the threads, so there was no real issue of me getting that one in. I do plan on getting some of the, I think it's RNG that makes them, I'm not 100% sure, it's one of the racing companies, where instead of a screw it has like a little gnarled screw on top, so you can just, without taking a screwdriver, just twist them by hand, and it's even labeled, which would be really nice. I have to get one and I'll test it, and then if they fit well and they work, I will put it on all of them. Typically I would take the tops off to get to the diaphragm, but I know that the diaphragms that I got in the kit do not fit these ones, but they all have pressure, they don't slam down immediately, and they all have good vacuum to them, so that means they're sealing well. Now, what I'm going to do with these guys is I'm going to take this ducting tape, not duct tape, and wrap this as best as I can and avoid doing anything to this or blocking this off, because I wouldn't be able to sync them all that well if I can't get any vacuum. Man, if that ain't the shoddiest repair, I don't know what is. But it might actually work, even though I don't think they're leaking all that bad, if at all. But this will definitely work, just a little bit more of a seal. I do plan on getting new intake boots. I just don't feel like spending $94 right now for multiple reasons. And I do plan on either getting a FJ600 carb, which is 2 millimeters bigger, or I did find a set of race carbs, and they come with a billet set of intake boots, which obviously would not ever crack or fail. Well, they could fail, but they wouldn't ever crack from dry rot. Finally, back to actually putting the bike together after all that. I did clean up the surfaces with the Scotch-Brite pad and the brass brush. Obviously, you don't want any brass brush material in there, but the Scotch-Brite pad, it's all flammable. It will burn off immediately once it fires once. I just didn't want it in the fuel system. Obviously, it would clog up a little bit more. I'll put those on. I do need 2 hands to do it, just so nothing slips and falls, but I will get those on right now. Yep, and same deal with this. Just get it finger tight, and then go back with the tool. Oop, if it wants to go in, and then just get it snug down. You won't have any issues or leaking, but I know that old gasket is not helping me. All right, and we're about to put the carb back on. Just make sure whenever we're doing that you gotta make sure all of these little clamps are loose, so it will actually slide in place. If not, you'll never get in there. You'll just end up hurting yourself. All right, I got the carbs in. That's a 2, maybe 3-handed job, so I couldn't really record me doing that. Just be aware if you have one of these bikes, I think it's on most of these older Yamahas anyway, the throttle needs to be snug into place there, or else it will dip down and you'll never get it hooked up without taking the carbs off. I've done that multiple times, and it's just spiting me because I had it all back together except that. I about just had that issue with this because when I was trying to hook it up there, it wasn't fully seated, so it dropped, but luckily I caught it. And then the choke, it just hooks up the same way. You gotta tighten that little screw. Yep, and you'll know you have your choke set properly when you pull it in. It goes all the way out and then returns back. There's a bit of that click. I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to. Oops. Probably not. There's a little bit where it's stuck, but using it over time and the motor running, it should free everything up. The next trick I have to do is get these little pod filters on. They kind of fit. They don't fully fit because not a huge amount of room, but same thing as the boots here. You just got to tighten that little screw and it will work. Obviously, if I had the stock airbox, I wouldn't be having this clearance problem, but oh well. Got the carbs in there with the air filters on now. Everything is hooked up. Make sure before you do anything, you make sure all the screws are loose for the bowls, or else you'll just dump it everywhere. So now we hook everything back up, and I am gonna hook up both of these carb sinks. Only reason I have 2 is because this one does not work. So now we have everything hooked up. We got it on the bottle. The moment of truth to know if anything leaks. So you open it up. Takes fuel, and you just hope and pray. And there's no drippage. So I think we're good. Yeah, a little weird setup, not a huge deal. They work. I would love to get either a DigiSync, which I would get the 6-channel, but that's $200. I don't have that coin right now. Or I'd like to get one of the Motion Pro with the water in it, which would be great. But, all right, with all that being said, I have everything sorted out. I did spray a little bit of cleaner on it just so it gets through. Choke on. Up, ignition on. Gotta do a little bit of voiceover right here because it was so loud I couldn't speak clearly. Just trying to set up the carb sync tool to make sure everything's aligned. I will really quick illustrate how to do that properly because I did not show it at all. All right, this is my very advanced technical technique to illustrate how to properly sync the carbs up. I'll use a red pen. So whenever the bike was running, it was unsynced. So we had things like this. That was a little messed up. But with this bike, carb number 3, while sitting on the bike and looking forward, this is the back, so this isn't correct with how I had it set up, but this is the source, right? So this, you want to get everything here, which actually I don't, stop that. Uh-oh, God. Nope. All right, we'll use yellow now. It's going to look really weird. But the source was more over here, right? So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get every single one of these lined up. The easiest way to do it is number 4, it is not connected to another carb. So that right around here, there's a little screw. Tightening it makes the gauge go backwards because that is lessening the vacuum, and loosening it is making the gauge go forward because it makes the vacuum higher. Basically, less air, therefore more vacuum, whatnot. So, let's say it was here and it's supposed to be in the green. What you're trying to do is adjust it just so it's here. And you'll even hear it a little bit. The idle will drop down a little bit better, and it will, it'll all kind of sort itself out a little bit easier. Now, the real trick is for 1 and 2. 1 controls both. 2 controls, or the screw over here controls both, and then the screw here. Actually, no, these carbs are set up correctly. This is the back. So the screw for 4 is here. 3 does not have a screw. There's 1 screw, there's the other. This screw controls this, but because they are connected, they kind of work in balance. And even still doing it, even if they are not fully connected, they'll all kind of shift around, but 3 shouldn't shift all that much because that's the source or base or static, whatever, or reference point. That's what you want to get it to. So as you're adjusting 1, you're starting to make this go over here, and then this one's going to start moving too. But what was happening for me was I was adjusting this, and then this would kind of drop off a little bit, and it would make the bike start to lug, and then I would adjust this screw, and it would bring itself back. And it was just kind of a dance of slowly skating it backwards till all of them were like this. This is not a comprehensive how carbs work, how to sync them correctly. This is just the easiest way to illustrate it in the dumbest way possible. Obviously, the MS Paint is not the preferred way to illustrate this. I should have recorded it better, but I did not, and it's kind of hard to do when you only have one hand, the other one's holding the camera, and then you have to get the screwdriver, and then you have to keep referencing back and forth. But all with syncing carbs, all you're trying to do is make every single one of these line up. It does matter where they line up, but typically 3 or whatever your static carb is, it depends on the carb, but the Mikuni carbs that are on the Radian, number 3 is the static. Nothing affects this really. Of course, affecting all these will change it just a little bit, but nothing major. I hope that kind of helps, because I know I did not record it or illustrate anything while working on the bike all that well. I really hope that kind of helps. Probably doesn't, but this is the best way I can think of it and the funniest way I could do it outside of desyncing it and then resyncing it, but also it's been so loud you wouldn't be able to hear me. Pain in the ass, and I also live in an area where I try not to piss off the neighbors with a loud bike that I just have to keep fiddling with, that gains idle and loses idle, and it gets louder and quieter constantly. But that should be roughly it, I promise you it is synced. I will start in one moment. What was weird, I don't know if this is, it looks like that's bent upwards. I had to take off the throttle or else it would just rev climb, and I'm assuming this is bent. I'll try it in one moment by hooking it back up, or I'm putting it back in its slot. But everything is synced right now. I have the idle good. It's not, because what it was doing was, it would, yeah, that's bent. I think I'm gonna have to bend that back in place. Oh well. I think what it's doing, or maybe this was the issue the whole time, but it doesn't matter now. It's synced, it's idling and everything. I think that's pulling up, so it spikes to 4 grand, which was very loud and not very happy, and I'm trying not to piss off neighbors, so I'm gonna see if I can fix that real fast. A few things need to be adjusted, but So, as you saw, I didn't show the carb sync tool, but they're mostly synced up. I'll have to fiddle with it a little bit more. Feel like it doesn't rev as fast as it should, but that's just going to take a little more fine tuning. But yeah, no, that was the problem. This little guy right here was bent forward, so I just bent it right back down, and now it doesn't rev hang or hide. I have the idle set where it says it should be, but I think it's right because any higher and I rev it and it wants to stick a little bit. So it's kind of hard to say, but hey, it's running now and it starts. Oh, there it is. This was not a comprehensive tutorial anyway, and sorry to anyone who thought it was, but hey, if you stuck around, let me know how you liked how I did this video, where it's a little more educational, not me just running my mouth about random shit. So we are one step closer to this thing being able to go on the road. I really want to be able to at least take it out once before winter. I have to still get it registered and inspected and everything, and then obviously I will need new tires, and they actually are holding air. I just put air in them to the proper PSI, and they're holding them, so I can't really complain about that. But anyways, thank you for everyone who watched this. If you liked it, give it a like. If you want to see more, subscribe. If not, I'm very sorry for wasting your time. Thank you, guys.